you seem to agree that there's a lot of bad narratives that are not helpful, bad definitions, bad use of language, and maybe statements that are not true that do come out of the left.
Oh, definitely, yeah.
Okay, so we call that woke.
Well, that's what I was gonna get into. Like what I was hinting at, and what the title of my stream is. I don't know what woke means anymore. I have
Mm.
no idea what that means. It's used in such a large variety of contexts, and it's almost, and this is my personal experience, it's mostly used as a pejorative now. Would you?
Mm.
Is that the vibe you get? I don't know if too many people are saying woke like as a good thing anymore. It seems to be used more as a pejorative, but that could just be like what I see on the internet.
So I think the people who like us who use it as a way to the people who don't, yeah, like people like us who use it, when we talk about woke, we're talking about people who are using very successful movements on the left that had achieved a lot, right? Like the gay rights movement, women's rights movement, minority rights movement, trans rights movements, and they're just jumping on these, and they're turning it into something that is not as helpful as it used to be by many times demand asking for things that is not even going to help the community of people that they pretend to be protecting, right? And especially when it comes to and the methodology that they have in both understanding what works and what is true, what is not true, and how to measure their success is also seems to be very flawed. And they don't even seem to be that worried about even checking whether what they're saying is objectively true or not. I mean, I know we can't be anybody could 100% sure if what they're saying is objectively true, but they're not even making an attempt to making it close. It's all about which narratives wins over the other one, and it seems like to be going towards the directions of collectivism rather than individualism. It seems to be there's some levels of anti science denying going on, lack of interest in empirical data. Again, this is not most of the left. Okay, a lot of these problems, like a lot of people who point to the woke want to make it seem like the entire left has been lost to them, and and dismiss the entire left, which is I mean, that is very dangerous. And I think that's actually the most dangerous thing about the woke, is not that they are taking over the left, is that some people on the right are trying to use them as a way to give the impression that the entire left is lost, even though the left is still the main hope that we have for all these rights and all these values and all the I mean, I still consider myself a leftist, even though a lot of people on the left wouldn't want to have me, but
You're telling me you're not a far right shell?
no, but I think, like, again, so I want to make sure that we're not exaggerating. Like, I don't want to say, like, one reason why we're against the woke is because we don't want them to be used as a way to promote the right, not because we think the right is now better than the left, right? So we're still leftists, I think. But what do you think about all that? Yeah.
I can tell you. So I'm gonna use a mix of the research that I'm familiar with, and as well as a lot of my feelings. It's mostly gonna be feelings because I'm an SJW, and that's what we trade in. We trade in feelings. So let me start with the dictionary definition of woke. I know that's like the worst. That's like the worst way to start. But
No, I was actually about to say that we should define our terms.
yeah, so and I would agree with, like, this is like any like social justice advocate. I would and woke. I would use mostly the same definition. Basically, just someone who is alert to injustice in society, especially racism. But you could also extend it to like LGBT issues or just trans rights specifically or something like that. I think that's a fair place to start from, and I think that's a good place. Where I'm so on the left, especially in the debate bro scene, which is very divisive. There is this thing called a woke scold. which is probably like what you're calling just the woke in general. But it's basically people who seem to seek out reasons to be offended, people who seem to hyperfixate on single negative comments or things that might not have been worded in a great way, or that could be offensive if it meant this, and things like that. And so I do think that's a problem, but I'm also going to like put that in perspective of why those people might not necessarily be the worst people in the world, and how we can like what if they better tailor their rhetoric? And I'll explain what I mean here in a second. So there's a lot of research on universal dimensions of acceptance. I can't remember if that's the exact name of it, but basically we judge people primarily on a personal level on two axes. One is warmth and one is competence. Warmth is how likable a person is, and that's largely has to do with like how closely their goals align with yours. Like, does this person want the same things as me? And the other one is competence, which is obviously like how capable are you at achieving those goals? Well, people who are high in warmth, low in competence, that's like the people that we love and got to protect and stuff like that. People low in warmth, high in competence, those are like the dangerous people, but people that we absolutely hate. Like not only are they bad at what they, not only are they our enemies, but they're bad at what they do. We don't even see those people as humans sometimes. Like it literally doesn't light up the part of our brain that recognizes other people. But negative warmth. So if you see someone as not likable, if you see someone as their goals don't align with you, that's diagnostic of that person. And we're far more attuned to search for threats than we are to search for good things. So to use an example I'd like to use a lot, it's if I give you a banana every single day, I'm feeding you, I'm keeping you alive, and then 99 days in a row, and one day out of that 99, I smash you over the head with a rock. Well, the bad thing is by far the most important thing I did to you, by far, because if you are nice to me, I'm alive today. If you kill me, I am dead forever. And so that's why, like, from a certain perspective, why like our lizard brain is more attuned to negative threats. And some people are hyper fixated on that. You could see that and we could see traits of this with left or right flavorings. And since we're talking about the woke school, those are the people who are like, they're really attuned to look for things that could be perceived as a threat. And that can be really annoying. It can be like, what's worse is like if someone does something bad, that means they are a bad person. I do hate that. I wish that was something that we got better at. But I can also see it in terms of like, I don't want to ever get to the points where I want the bar to be set higher for equality. So for example, I when I talk to a lot of people, if we're talking about like, the gay representation in video games, the only important issue of our time is like gay representation in video games. All right. That's the only thing that matters today. And we start talking about, well, yeah, they didn't have a gay character. They don't have a great gay character, but at least they're not throwing you off roofs. I don't like that. I don't like that that's where the bar is. I'm not thankful that I'm not being thrown off a roof for being gay. I shouldn't be thankful for that. And so I can see why, no, we shouldn't be. I can see why it doesn't feel good. It doesn't like make you feel like a worthy, equal member of society if your inclusion is seen as a treat and your exclusion is seen as normal. So I can see where they're coming from on that front a little bit. So that's my defense of the woke skulls and my critique of the woke skulls. Did any of that make sense? I talked for a long time.
No, I mean that was good. I don't think, but I don't see that why that's a woke skull thing. That's our position as well. I mean, we think that there needs to be
the same thing.
No. I mean, I just think like they don't. I don't think that that's when we think about at least when we think about the woke, we don't think about the people that need to be grateful that they're not being like they're complaining that. Like what I'm saying is that
I wasn't accusing you of saying that that's what woke people do. I promise that.
I know, and I just think like we're giving them undeserved credit because that could be also a liberal, non-wokey liberal position. That yes, we need more, like especially in arts, in movies, in games, more representation helps people grow up feeling normal, and that's a useful thing to do. And you don't have to compare us to the worst of humanity to not continue making progress, right? And I think that's actually a position that anybody could make that. Like any sane person could make that. Why are we giving that to the woke? Like that's not a trait that they're known by.
Probably the most salient point that I think we agree on is like what would make a woke or woke scold, if we're going to use those terms, is if you do a bad thing, you are bad. Is that fair to say?
Well,
It's the difference
Okay,
between
let me.
woke. Sorry, it's the difference between guilt and shame. Guilt is about an action. I did a bad thing. Shame is about the character. Like, I am bad.
Wait, I wrote something really quickly when I was thinking about what wokeism is. This is what I came up with. I said a set of ideas to pretending to be continuing the civil rights movements, which are in direct opposition to them. Because I didn't write this very well because I was just like quickly writing. I also write people need to have enemies to be able to become more relevant, and dividing people into groups, into collectives, makes them much more, is yes. So I think what I was thinking is also is like, because of a lot of the progress the civil rights movement coming from the left has had in Western European and North American countries, that urgency, there's a lot of like movements that have been banking on the fact that there's a problem there. And even though I do agree with you that we still have a lot way to go, I think like a lot of that urgency was missed now because we made a lot of progress. So I think some of the solutions were to kind of suggest that, I don't know, the problems that we have today is as bad as like slavery or like Jim Crow, or like, you have to make it seem like things are way worse than they are. And to be able to be successfully do that, you have to also deny successful, good method,
this
like
is that. This is that single drop of negativity is diagnostic type of thing. If there's any racism at all, it must be as bad as the worst racism. It's a
Right.
Robin DiAngelo is really bad about that.
Yeah.
She has a really bad habit of that.
Yeah. From what I read of white fragility, it's a
I'm not even talking about white fragility. I'm talking about like interviews I've seen where she says that like we are basically living in like segregationist.
Let me give you an example. Again, I'm not crying about it like, oh, Armin, you lost friends. I'm just giving you an example, right? I lost so many people, unfriended, unfollows, and angry responses, being accused of racism, right? For making suggestions like, for posting this from on Twitter and on Facebook. Before, when I had Twitter, I'm suspended now on Twitter, for suggesting that North America and Western European countries are less racist on average than other countries, right? This is, people are like, oh, you think so? Then they're like, oh, you think United States is not racist? Like, no, I didn't say that. You think that you think there's no racism in the United States? Like, what the hell are you talking about? We have streams on addressing racism in the United States. Me saying United States is less bigoted than a country like India, for example, right? Or a country like Iran, for example, right? That doesn't mean there's no racism in the United States. But people think like I'm a racist. Again, I'm not complaining about it. I'm not like, oh, boo, be sorry for me. People call me racist.
I can tell you the thought process that a lot of people were going through when they saw that.
Right.
So you could, there's all the difference in the world between saying the United States is way less racist than most other countries because these countries do this, this, and this. And there's all the difference in the world between that and there's no systemic racism, or you think the U.S. is systemically racist. It's way less racist than all these other countries. There's all the difference in the worlds between those two. And I would guarantee a lot of people thought that you were implying the second one. Because
it was clear that I didn't. I even had clarification that I didn't, right? And also subscribe to our newsletter, because if we get removed from all these platforms, at least we could reach out to you. And guys, by the way, if you subscribe to our newsletter, you get a free copy of where's your copy, Susanna? Get it. We're doing promotion. You get a free, it's not even promotion, it's free. Okay, so if you subscribe to our newsletter, link in the description, you get a free copy of Why There's No God. Come on, like, I'm handing it out for free. Okay, it's a bestseller on Amazon, and you get it for free. So subscribe to our newsletter, and you get a free copy of Why There's No God sent to you. Link in the description.